10-year-old Dan lived in a quaint coastal town, tucked along a scenic shoreline. His house was just a short 10-minute stroll from the beach, and each evening, the gentle rhythm of the waves serenaded him through his open window. Facing east, his room offered a perfect view of the sunrise, as the first golden rays danced across the ocean each morning. On his windowsill, he proudly showcased his seashell collection, precious finds from countless walks along the sandy shores. The walls of his room came alive with posters of marine life, including a strikingly detailed diagram of an octopus, his favorite sea creature. The town's narrow streets seemed to flow straight to the beach, as if they were part of the shoreline. Old streetlights, dusted with a salty layer from the sea breeze, lined the paths. The air was filled with the ocean's fresh scent, mingled with the cries of seagulls circling above the waves. Dan's fascination with marine life began early. Every weekend, he eagerly asked his parents to take him to the local aquarium, a charming red brick building by the shore. The staff knew him well and often let him watch as they fed the sea creatures. Pressing his nose to the glass of the tanks, he spent hours observing the marine animals, carefully jotting down notes in a waterproof notebook his father had given him. Octopuses captured Dan's imagination the most. Their graceful movements, color-changing abilities, and flexible tentacles fascinated him. He lingered by their tank, mesmerized as they solved puzzles created by the staff. One small, spotted octopus became his favorite, always swimming up to the glass as if to greet him. One July morning, Dan woke up earlier than usual to the sound of waves crashing against the coastal rocks. The rising sun painted the sky in soft pink hues, and a gentle breeze carried the salty aroma of seaweed through his room. Dan felt instinctively that the day would be special. He quickly washed his face with cool water, put on his favorite t-shirt featuring sea animals, and went downstairs to the kitchen, where his mother was preparing breakfast. The smell of freshly baked cinnamon rolls mingled with the rich aroma of brewed coffee. After breakfast, Dan began packing his beach bag, made of sturdy waterproof fabric. Inside, he placed a large blue towel adorned with images of starfish, a high SPF sunscreen, as his mother insisted, a bottle of water, a few tuna sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, a bright yellow plastic bucket, and a red plastic shovel with a long, comfortable handle, his essential tools for exploring the beach. Dan's father, a marine biologist with 15 years of experience at the local research institute, fully supported his son's passion for marine life. That morning, he planned to join the family at the beach, intending to show Dan some special spots where starfish and crabs could be found hiding under rocks at low tide. As the day unfolded, the weather grew unusually hot, even for midsummer. The sand quickly heated under the blazing sun, prompting Dan to wear his favorite beach sandals with thick soles. By 10 a.m., the thermometer on their porch already read 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Most beachgoers stayed close to the water, enjoying the cool sea breeze, but Dan's adventurous spirit led him to explore the quieter parts of the beach, far from the crowd. While passing the cluster of large rocks covered in tiny shells and dried seaweed, Dan noticed something unusual. A dark spot partly buried in the sand, situated near the high tide mark. His curiosity piqued, he approached the object. As he drew closer, he saw faint movements that couldn't be attributed to the wind. Carefully kneeling down, he began to gently clear the sand away with his small shovel, his heart pounding with excitement. The hot, dry sand made his task challenging, but determination kept him going. Soon Dan uncovered the distinct shape of tentacles and realized it was an octopus stranded far from the water, likely left behind by the receding tide. The creature appeared exhausted and dehydrated, its skin dry and dull. Its movements were sluggish, as if each motion required immense effort. Dan remembered his father's stories about how octopuses could survive briefly out of water by utilizing moisture stored in their gills and skin folds. However, this one had clearly spent too much time under the scorching sun. Without immediate help, it would not survive. Wasting no time, Dan called out to his parents with urgency in his voice, "Dad, Mom, come quick." His clear voice echoed across the empty stretch of the beach, bouncing off the coastal cliffs. Hearing his son's excited cry, Dan's father quickly ran over, leaving deep footprints in the dry sand. When he saw the octopus, he immediately grasped the gravity of the situation. His professional experience told him that time was critical. They had to act fast but carefully to avoid causing further harm to the animal. Dan quickly filled his yellow bucket with seawater, scooping it from farther out where the water was cleaner and cooler. Water splashed over the edges as he ran back to the octopus, leaving a damp trail on the hot sand. His father showed him how to carefully transfer the creature into the bucket, using the small shovel as an improvised stretcher to avoid injuring the octopus's delicate skin. At first, the octopus tensed, its skin darkening, a natural response to potential danger. But once it was in the water, it began to slowly stretch out its tentacles as though awakening from a heavy sleep. The family hurried toward the sea, choosing a path with firmer sand to keep the bucket steady. Dan's father pointed out the perfect spot to release the octopus, a small natural bay sheltered from waves by protruding basalt rocks. The water there was calm and deep enough, with clusters of seaweed where the octopus could hide. Dan carefully lowered the bucket into the water, making sure to avoid sudden movements, and slowly tilted it to let the seawater mix with the water in the bucket. For several long seconds, nothing happened, and Dan's heart tightened with worry. Then the octopus began to move, gaining confidence as it entered its natural environment. Its skin changed color, turning a healthy reddish-brown hue typical of its species, before it swam out into deeper water. To their surprise, the octopus lingered in the shallows for a moment, its tentacles gracefully waving in the clear water. It turned toward its rescuers, its large eyes seeming to study them. For a long moment it gazed at Dan, almost as if memorizing him, before gliding smoothly into deeper water and disappearing among the seaweed. For the rest of the day, Dan couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. During dinner, he bombarded his father with questions about octopuses. His father gladly shared fascinating facts about these incredible creatures, and Dan eagerly listened, already planning to return to the beach the next day to check if his unusual friend was all right. The following morning, the weather was much kinder for a day at the beach. Thin, feathery clouds occasionally covered the sun, making the day cooler and more pleasant. Dan headed straight to the spot where they had rescued the octopus, scanning the sand carefully for any other animals that might need help. Though he didn't expect to see the octopus again, he secretly hoped for another encounter. Suddenly, he noticed something unusual moving in the water near the shore, in the same sheltered bay where they had released the octopus. At first, he thought it was just the waves playing with the sunlight, but then, to his amazement, he saw a familiar shape. Swimming in the water was an octopus, and from its size and the distinctive spots on its tentacles, Dan realized it was the very same creature they had saved the day before. Dan froze in awe, then quietly called his parents, not wanting to scare away their unexpected guest. Together, they watched in wonder as the octopus confidently stayed close to the shore, as if deliberately showing itself. When Dan carefully approached the water, the octopus stayed in place and extended one of its tentacles toward him, as though greeting its rescuer, a remarkable display of trust and recognition. Fascinated by his new friend, Dan uncovered amazing facts about octopuses: their blue blood, 3 hearts, and ability to squeeze through tiny spaces due to their boneless bodies. He was astonished to learn they have 9 brains, 1 central and 8 in their tentacles, enabling tool use, problem solving, and even recognizing human faces. This discovery sparked Dan's passion for marine biology, inspiring him to protect these incredible ocean creatures, just like his father.